everyone. Welcome to E-Coffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. Today on the show, I have with me a very special guest, Brennen Bliss. Brennen is the founder and CEO of the award-winning travel, transportation, and tourism brands SEO agency, Pixel Cut Labs. He's an SEO industry expert who, together with his team, raises the visibility of the brands he works with, leveraging the power of SEO strategy to build online revenue and bring in more sales. He takes no shortcuts in SEO and firmly believes that the route to success follows the data. Based in Austin, Texas, Brennen spends his free time flying small planes and serving on the Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator Board. Brennen, thanks so much for being on the show.
I am so happy to be here, and happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it's my birthday today. Thanks a lot. Hey, Brennen, so you've had an interesting journey so far. What did you want to be when you were a kid and why?
When I was a kid, the deeply ironic part of this is I started the company that I'm running now when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
When I was a kid, no, I did not have an idea that I would be doing this. I had a couple of inklings that I would struggle to hold a job because of my very, very unfocused, or not unfocused, but jumpy personality, a shiny object personality. But I did start this company at 13. So I guess that aligns with the question.
That's amazing. So you had an interest in digital marketing and computers and technology and all the things associated with from a young age.
I did. I built my first app at 14 years old, first website at 14, built my first computer at 11.
Wow.
And it's been downhill ever since.
That's downhill. I'm assuming you're kidding. So who's the most influential person in your life and how have they impacted you?
I would have to say just the person that I've been closest to that fits this answer. My grandmother, her name is Jean. She is a cancer survivor. She wasn't college educated. She has dyslexia just like I do. And she is the youngest child just like I am. And despite all of that, she is the most wise person that I've ever met in my life and the strongest, most perseverant person. And any little piece of her that I can embody, she is truly an inspirational and an influential person in my life.
That's awesome. Hey, you mentioned that you struggle with, trying to stay focused and things like that. I think it's something a lot of entrepreneurs and from what I understand, marketers struggle with. Is there any strategies or techniques you use to help yourself to stay focused that you'd be willing to share?
You are driving into a very, very long discussion. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Let's see. I'll list off high level a couple of things though. Number one, the space that I create for myself around me. So I cannot and will not try to work in the same room that I sleep or in the same room that I cook or the same room that I have food. Anything that makes a space of work feel like anything else detracts from my ability to focus. And that's the case with a lot of people with ADHD. Limiting distractions, of course, but also the seeking things that truly give joy and excitement and interest as the things that I'm working on, and delegating the rest to my team is the way that I can stay focused, by doing the things that I truly get excited about.
Yeah, that's what I heard is that, to be frank with you, I struggle with ADHD as well. So I know what it's about. And I found it very interesting that one of the traits is that things that don't interest people with ADHD, it's very hard for them to get done. So offloading.
But also you say struggle. The brilliant thing about ADHD, though, one of the many positives is that when someone with ADHD is excited, which, by the way, I believe the statistic is about 1 in every 2 entrepreneurs have ADHD. Study done by the Entrepreneurs Organization. I might be pulling that out of the air, but I'm fairly certain that I've heard that statistic to be true. But when we focus on something and it's something we get excited about, we can get it done in about 1/10 the time it takes a normal person.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know what you're talking about, because from things that I've focused so hard on things I'm interested in that I get them done. But things that I don't interest me, it's nearly impossible. Hey, how has entrepreneurship changed your life? I mean, you started when you were 13. That's pretty amazing. You haven't gone down the traditional get a job path. So how would you say that has changed your life, embracing the entrepreneurship model and starting your own business?
I think that first off, the reason I landed in entrepreneurship was not because I had these big desires of what I was going to do or this big goal. It was frankly because I had nothing else to do. I was bullied growing up. I had no friends. And we're talking 10, 15 years ago. And I filled the time by making websites, and I was able to monetize that process. How entrepreneurship has changed my life, I would say the people that I spend the most time with, the people that understand me, are fellow business owners going through the same struggles, going through the same opportunities and risks that I'm taking. I have to, cite my very best friend, Amber. She runs a virtual assistant company. I would have never met her had we not both been entrepreneurs. And get to have dinner with her on Friday. And it's one of those relationships that would not have been created had I not first become an entrepreneur, and number two, done the work to surround myself with other entrepreneurs. So it really is the community that's the most special thing to me. And then also the side benefit of, being able to create the outcomes that you're after without limitation.
Yeah. The freedom of those things. That's what a lot of people state is the freedom. The freedom in time. I mean, hopefully the freedom in finances. Do you think there's anything that can prepare someone for becoming an entrepreneur? Like, or you said you just started it out of, necessity or whatever, your explanation there. But if you were would you give any advice to someone who was looking to get into this, pass on any knowledge that you've gained?
I mean, knowledge, yes. And I'll get to that in a second. There are some things that I've learned that are just like things that I use as my guiding principles and truth. What can prepare someone for being an entrepreneur is being an entrepreneur and going out and doing it. Like this whole grand act, going and trying to sell something, that's being an entrepreneur. Selling something of your own. It's not this whole grand act of, success is obviously a goal. But quote unquote, being an entrepreneur doesn't require success. It requires trying. So I think once you've decided and once it's a bug, it's a compelling thing. It's once you feel compelled to go and actually do something and take that risk. The couple of things that I keep as guiding principles are, number one, without cash, you can't make good decisions. Cash is king, and minimize debt. Another thing is that any good outcome or any negative outcome is as a result of nothing other than people. Every problem is a people problem. Every success is a people success. It's all about who you work with and surround yourself with. And then the most valuable thing I've done, which I mentioned earlier, was surrounding myself with other entrepreneurs. So I didn't feel like I was lonely, especially given that I don't have any partners in this company.
Yeah. Did you join a mastermind or something like that? Or how did you find meetup, or how did you find other entrepreneurs to connect with?
I mean, there's an organization that I joined called the Entrepreneurs Organization, and they have an accelerator that requires $250,000 in annual revenue to join, and a EO proper that requires $1 million, in some chapters $2 million in annual revenue to join. So what you're doing is you're kind of setting this standard of all of us are going through similar issues given our size, and grouping up and going into a format where it's completely transparent, 100% confidential, and sharing your deepest, darkest negatives and biggest, most positive wins with people who are there to experience that with you. And I would say nearly everybody that I spend time with comes from that organization. There are other organizations like Vistage for companies that haven't hit those revenue markers. And there are a bunch of other like local meetups. But as far as what has been most valuable to me, that would be EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. Wow.
Is that something that, given the parameters that someone, the benchmarks that someone needs to have, is it specific to your local area, or is it a worldwide organization? Is it national? Is it?
So there's 17,000 members last time I checked worldwide.
Oh, wow.
It's chapter based. So I'm in the Austin chapter. We've got about 300 members here. And I would say like the level of access, the level of unique experiences, the level of conversation, it's just elevated beyond anything else I've ever seen. I'm not every chapter is the same, but they all operate under the same
principles,
rules and principles, because it is run by a global organization. But every major country, every major city has a chapter or a chapter nearby.
Well, that's neat.
pretty
So if
fantastic.
anybody wants to find out more about that, they could Google Entrepreneurs Organization. I'm assuming.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
EO,
Okay.
Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO Accelerator.
EO Accelerator. Okay. You mentioned that you built your first website when you were like 13. Do you remember what it was?
I absolutely do, Matt.
Yeah?
I absolutely do. Well, actually, hold on.
Sure.
My brother was a baseball player, and I completely forgot about this for about 5 years. And I finally remembered this. I made my first website, bestbaseballpics.com was what it was called, where I would go to the baseball games for my brother. I must have been 9. I would go to the baseball games, and I would take pictures of other baseball players of the games and try to sell the pictures to the parents of those those baseball players in my brother's 12-year-old baseball group.
Oh, best
I think the site is down. I think I just saw a glare in your glasses trying to look it up. I hope the site's not still there. But I'll have to check that after this. And hope that it's not something that I didn't mean to share. But I did that, and that was my first entrepreneurial attempt. And the next one was websites. I learned how to do that, so I made one for my mom's speech pathology practice. Spent an entire summer doing that, and then continued to just talk to the people I knew. Most of the people that I worked with were parents of friends, and those parents of people that I went to school with who owned businesses.
Oh, and did they offer to hire you to do stuff for them?
I pestered them enough to get a couple of them to hire me.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's pretty amazing. So instead of getting a part-time job at McDonald's, like a lot of kids do, you went and just created your own opportunities. That's pretty neat.
I did have a 6-week-long part-time job at Kroger. I was bagging groceries. There has to be a record for the worst grocery bagger that has ever walked the planet, and I'm fairly certain that I own that award.
I had a similar job when I was 14 doing that, so I can relate. Although I enjoyed talking to people when you took the groceries out to them. That was the one part of the job I liked doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So how did you learn about SEO then? You started building these websites when you were quite young. How did you get started learning about SEO and digital marketing?
It's fairly natural, right? You build the website, and then what?
Yeah.
So a lot of these things they were like, how else can we work together? Because the work was good, the quality was good. They were getting a deal because I was spending. I'd finish my homework and then work on the sites. And in all honesty, probably the other way around. But I first off, number one, for the company to get more web design clients, I taught myself SEO to get more web design clients.
Oh, okay.
Sitting in the back of a classroom at 15 years old, I remember outranking the at the time largest SEO agency in the DFW space for SEO Agency Dallas. And I did it. I was competing against a 60-person company, and it was just me. And I said,
it's just you.
And that's how I got all my web design clients thereafter. So I said, this is very powerful. So we started doing that. And then also it was just me at the time, and started building out every single service, anything someone would pay us for. I made the biggest mistake when I started taking money for social media, for graphic design, and all these were things I was scrambling to find people to help resource those things. And it was not excellent work. So that only lasted for about 2 years. And then we chose the thing that was the most effective. And at this point, I had hired my first employee in my junior year of high school. And I decided with her and through an agency coach that I had brought on and hired to help us scale to cut everything but SEO. And we became an SEO agency.
And you focused on that ever since?
Focused on that ever since.
That's amazing. So one of your pieces of advice would be, don't try to be everything and anything to everybody, but instead
the person who is everything to everybody is nobody to everybody.
Yeah. That's
it's nothing
quote.
to nobody. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nothing to nobody.
It's certainly not mine.
Yeah. So
if
someone asks you about PPC or marketing funnels or marketing automation, do you just refer them to somebody else or?
Yeah, I keep a running list of all the people that have done great work for other clients of ours, so I can refer them out. And the great thing about that is it builds relationships with people, and it typically returns the favor. But I mean, there are people that are excellent in things that we suck at, so might as well let them work with the people that are excellent, right?
Yeah. So what's your process then for developing an SEO strategy for a potential client?
So we've got two processes. One is called the SEO project planner. One is called the organic visibility framework. And the project planner is just the first sprint of the organic visibility framework. But a comprehensive and holistic SEO plan requires 3 main functions and 4 if it's a local based company. And those functions are technical SEO, in that we want to make sure Google can read and understand the things on our website. Content, we want to put valuable content out that's worthwhile and able to rank. And then finally, authority. If that content can't rank on its own, we need to prove that we are valuable and meaningful in the space. And we do that through growing authority through link building. So every single SEO engagement that is comprehensive, that we call fully managed SEO, includes technical, content, and authority. And if it's a company that has local physical locations, also some local SEO managing the local data profile.
Yeah. So is this a framework? I'm asking, you can plead the fifth if you want, but is this a framework you developed on your own, or is it something you developed over time, or is it? I
would say 10 years now at this point. 9 to 10 years of developing this framework has resulted in a custom process that specifically, it works for brands of all kinds, but specifically is built and tailored to companies that work in the travel and transportation and tourism spaces. The process of the organic visibility framework is a combination and very documented process of all the things that we've found to be the most powerful SEO tools that we have at our disposal.
Well, that's awesome. So just like you offered services, different types of services to different types of business, did you niche down to specifically offering SEO to the specific niche of travel and tourism websites and businesses?
So everything is an evolving work in process. So we're about to launch a rebrand. We're changing our name because we've been riding on this new positioning for a while now, but haven't really updated any of our messaging and branding. So we'll be changing our name in about a month and a half, and everything you know about our company right now, everything our clients know and love, and all the things that the people that we work with know about our brand, that will be publicly visible. Once that goes live, this is a 6-month project with several agencies involved. So it's a lot of coordination. But travel, so there's a guy, there's a book, it's called The Business of Expertise. It's by David C. Baker. Are you familiar with that book?
No, but I'm Googling it right now.
It's a fantastic book. I keep a copy to give away always next to me when I see people in person.
I might ask my wife to buy it for me for my birthday.
And the book talks about this progression of linear thought, where you say, number one, how do we rate and understand if a child is a smart, quote unquote, smart child? And this is a flawed assessment. We all know IQ tests are flawed assessments, but generally IQ tests use what's called pattern recognition to identify whether someone's smart or not, even before they can speak. Okay. So if I were to hold up a picture of 2 frogs and a picture of a cat, the kid who points at the cat more consistently, or the one that's not part of the pattern, is going to be the kid that's rated higher IQ. Okay. So what we do with this is we extrapolate and say IQ equals expertise. And how do you grow your expertise? Pattern recognition. And how do you grow pattern recognition? You put yourself in more similar situations. So by subjecting ourselves to the travel, transportation, and tourism space, we are able to very, very effectively, more than any other full service agency could, answer the deepest, most important SEO issues and questions for the travel, transportation, and tourism space, because we have that deep expertise.
Okay, so I have a question then. I mean, this is just fascinating. Like this book, I'm definitely going to buy it. Because it's one thing to be a topic expert on something. It's another thing to turn that knowledge into dollars. Like you've developed this SEO framework. I mean, it's one thing to know how to do SEO. It's another thing to be able to put it into, SOPs, as they call them, and a process and a framework to actually get that done and be able to charge money for it, and knowing what your cost per action is and all those things. So, it's very interesting. And so I'm definitely going to buy this book and read it. And, if everybody else, it's The Business of Expertise by David C. Baker. Yeah.
Anybody who owns or operates an agency, he publishes, He's the my very, very good friend Deb said it one way, and I'll censor this for this conversation, but he's the person that you hire to unscrew your company before you sell it. David Baker is known as the marketing agency whisperer. To my knowledge, it's probably the best book that I've read in the past year.
Right on. So, hey, how do you handle, like, for instance, I was the marketing director for a car dealership for 5 years. And like, there was an agency that did marketing for various different dealerships in the same area. So we were a Mazda dealership. They did it for us, but there was a Toyota dealership in the exact same area and they were doing marketing for them. How do you avoid a conflict of interest if two different travel companies come to you and want you to do SEO for them? Have you ever run into that problem? And if you have, how do you deal with it?
So let me first diversify travel company.
Sure.
So let's think resorts, hotels, retreat centers, travel blogs, booking platforms, destination marketing offices, transportation brands, airlines, bus services, tourism. There are so many different sectors within travel that we have experience with, such that we don't necessarily need to worry about competition. There are a couple of travel blogs that we work with, and they all have their own unique niche. Thrifty Traveler, one of our clients, for example, that when they started working with us in 2019 was generating 20,000 visitors a month. 2020 in November 2020, and they're now at 200,000 visitors a month. So that's 10x.
10x their traffic.
10x their traffic in just over a year. Is targeting things around Google Flights and how to book cheap flights. Whereas another one of our clients, it's called 10x Travel. Their strategy is more let's get affiliate credit cards front and center. And both are fantastic brands working in the same place, often competing for similar keywords, but the conflict of interest is not as likely to happen as it might sound. So if you think of a hotel in, if we were working with two hotels in Austin, Texas, which is where I live, one hotel is going to serve a very different audience than the other, right?
Yeah.
The content they're putting out, one could be luxury vacation ideas for Austin. The other one could be cheap vacation ideas for Austin, because they're two totally different brands.
Two totally different niches. Well, same hotel, but serving a different clientele.
Yep, it's a hotel. What I consider this is a substitute competitor, not a direct competitor. There are four classifications of competitor that descend from direct competitor, and then you follow that with substitute. And a substitute competitor is something that could possibly take the place of, but it isn't really exactly the same thing. And we don't notice a conflict of interest there.
Okay, well, that's awesome. So basically, the industry is so big that the opportunity for any kind of overlap or conflict of interest is something you don't really have to worry about.
It's not necessarily as much it's something that you don't have to worry about as it is the argument for having industry expertise and working with a company like ours that is an expert on tourism, travel, and transportation marketing far outweighs the negative of possibly having similar brands that are competing.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So what are the most important things to focus on when optimizing a travel and tourism website for SEO?
So let me go back to that Thrifty Traveler one that I mentioned.
Sure.
So we have this very regimented process that is the organic visibility framework that has a repeating content plan that's informed by statistical analysis of what is causing things to rank in search. That's great.
Sure. Yeah.
We know we can go and find medium competition keywords with high search volumes and target those.
Yeah.
When working on a travel website, what I find to be the most important opportunity to take advantage of is, even though generally we see a lot of great opportunity in the medium difficulty keyword range, sprinkling in some very, very difficult reach goals. We call those Crusade goals. And an example would be like Thrifty Traveler Google Flights, this keyword Google Flights, which gets, you could assume how many searches that gets per month, right?
Oh, yeah.
We took the risk with them. And this was something that I credit the client for. They said, we really want to rank for this. And we took the risk. And that's why one of our core values is bold, willing to take risk. We targeted Google Flights, right? As part of the strategy, not the whole strategy. Don't take the whole risk, but as part of the strategy. And they're now ranking in position 2 for that search term.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, and that drives thousands and thousands of visitors a day. What I will say is that, the travel space, there are situations in which the relevance and authority that comes from inbound links from other websites will allow you to jump hurdles that in other spaces are more difficult to jump.
Wow. Could you say that again?
Yeah, sure. The travel space is a space where the link authority is so focused, such that you sometimes can do more with lesser resources than you can in other industries.
That's pretty amazing.
So taking risks in this space makes more sense. Wow.
That's pretty neat. So what are some of the strategies you've used to improve organic, if you can share, like in general terms? I don't want you to reveal your secret sauce.
There's no secret sauce. We're an open book.
Okay. Well, is there any tips you've used to improve the organics? Like you 10x their traffic. Like, are there any tips?
Yeah, for them, it was very simple. They had a site that had a very, very, very wide structure. No URL classification. So a very extensive project to break apart thousands and thousands of URLs into unique categories and sections on the site so Google could understand topical relevance was the key task for them.
So their site structure was not very good.
It was
all over the place.
Yeah, and that's really a conversation of increasing crawl efficiency. How can we make this easier for Google to gather the information from?
Yeah, and know what your site's about. And therefore, as a result of that, you started to see more. So it was more a technical SEO thing, correct me if I'm wrong.
That was originally a technical SEO thing, and that was about 2 years ago. So naturally, consistent follow through on developing new content that is purposeful and keyword driven, or keyword strategy driven rather than reverse optimizing, has continued to grow their traffic and the traffic of our 16 other clients at this point.
So how do you do you come up with the content strategy as well for your clients? And if so, like content is king. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's answer the public.
Cache and content, both cache and content, right?
Yeah, there's answer the public. There's Ask Socrates. There's Google. There's Google related search terms. You and I know how to do it, but like, it's one thing to know about that stuff, but how do you come up with like unique content ideas for your clients?
So we take a keyword-driven strategy. So we have a repeating project built into our ongoing campaigns where what we're doing in the organic visibility framework, where what we're doing is we are going and expanding on our keyword research work. There is no point at which you can say, I'm done with keyword research for this brand. You can never have a comprehensive keyword list. I promise there will be someone that can find more. So we always take in a continuous keyword research project, and we let the keywords that we identify through the hours and hours and hours of research that we do inform the editorial topics that are selected for a site. Okay.
Are there any keyword tools that are your favorites for keyword research?
Yeah, I think Emily, who's our SEO strategist and just celebrated her 3-year anniversary with us, she has the team using Ahrefs primarily for keyword research. And Ahrefs is a powerful tool with good keyword data, similar to SEMrush.
Okay.
The one thing I would say is don't make decisions about keywords using a tool like Answer the Public. Use that to inform your research in a tool like Ahrefs.
Okay.
Because if you're going to Answer the Public, you're just going to get you're going to get qualitative data, not quantitative data. And we need quantitative data to make decisions about keyword targeting.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. There's so many keyword tools out there like Keyword Chef and Keyword Finder.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
I like using Ahrefs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just prefer it over SEMrush, and there's just so many different things. Sometimes I like Keyword Chef and Keyword Finder as well, and Keywords Everywhere. Frankly, the extension Keywords Everywhere, the Google Chrome extension, Keywords Everywhere. I like using that one too. So when it comes to creating the content, it's basically the keywords. But for instance, how do you formulate that keywords into editorial content that people actually want to read? Like, do you for instance, do you have to come up with blog post titles that are that's more copywriting and engagement, putting the keyword in there? Is there any process or way that you go about doing that and structuring the content out? You've done the keyword research, because I myself am in the middle of doing this for a renovation company. It's like, okay, you got the, we know people are searching for kitchen renovations in this city, but it's a matter of coming up with the and I don't need to point on me. I'm just giving an example of how to actually come up with the content based on the darn keywords that is interesting that people want to read. Like, you got to have, let's say you're going for a 750 to 1,000 word article, and I'll shut up in a second. And then you got to come up with the headline, the subheadline, the body of what the hell is this thing about. I mean, do you use the classic who, what, when, where, why, how of the topic to come up with an outline? And do you have people that are specifically in your business that do that? And so anyway, I'll shut up now because that's a lot of questions.
No, hey, I will try to answer as many of those as I caught. And I will do it broadly with a story, or not a story, sure. but there's two ways you can do SEO. There's one, which is how most people do it. And what the process is you say, here are the best practices. We're going to use the best practices. This is where who, what, when comes in. This is where coming up with a title tag based on your understanding of things come in, and so on and so forth. Right. Let's just do what we think has worked in the past. Yeah. But how does that align with the fact that Google is always updating their algorithm?
True.
If we're not updating our best practices, how does that align with Google's not? So we both have a mutual friend who created a platform called Quora, right?
Yeah.
And what this software allows you to do, which is what informs all of our content strategy, which is deeply ironic because it's data driven, and the person who created the software is the least creative person.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not going to say his name. He's a great guy. I love him to death. He's the most data driven, analytical person I've ever met in my life.
And the true heart of an engineer. And you can tell that because someone who is not an engineer finds it very hard to use the software.
So true.
I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of the software. And what the software does for us is we are not going in with best practices. We are going in with a reverse statistical analysis of all of the pages that rank in search for a specific keyword, and looking for correlations between specific formats and ranking. So if the tool identifies that having the keyword selected at the very beginning of the title tag is important, is statistically significant, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and use that specific factor. So we'll include the keyword at the beginning of the title tag. Yeah. Now, data is great, but also we're writing for humans. So what we're going to check right after that is we're going to take all that data and put it head to head with what is the search intent of this keyword. And since Google is a consistently testing machine that's looking for what users are looking for, the more often a keyword is searched, the more likely Google will know. So for high search volume keywords, because Google's doing all of these tests and figuring out what's going to perform best and using dwell time to identify and consider what should rank better, we're going to look and see what the answers are when someone just searches that keyword. So if we were to choose, for example, best travel credit card, we are going to look at Google and see if Google is preferring blogs, if Google is preferring videos, if Google is preferring credit card companies. And if it's videos, then we're going to recommend, let's create a video where the title tag is X. Okay.
Wow. That makes so much sense.
So we put those two. Right, we put the data head to head with the qualitative data, and then make a decision as to what actually needs to be written about.
That's amazing. In case anyone's wondering what software we're talking about, it's Quora SEO software. You can just Google Cora SEO software. Do you use in conjunction, like for instance, I'm pretty sure you're aware of it, the Surfer SEO and Pop, Kyle Roof's platform for there's those two for coming up with and the usage of artificial intelligence now for generating content. First of all, do you use any?
I'm not bought into AI content yet. It's not where it needs to be yet. It does not provide additional value. It's generating content based on what's already existing. And what we prioritize is writing things that are new and meaningful to increase and diversify the thought in the world. That's our core purpose and mission as an organization. And that's why travel makes so much sense. It's because travel leads to new ideas, and new ideas lead to more diverse thought. And that's how the world progresses. That's awesome. The diverse thought does not come from an AI generated piece of content. Right. So it doesn't align with our mission as an organization, our core purpose. Now, what I will say about those tools like Pop and Surfer and so on and so forth are that there's certainly a place for them. Pop was created in conjunction with you mentioned Kyle, and also a very good friend of mine, Andy Stevens, who I have the pleasure of speaking with on pretty much monthly basis. We recommend our clients use that because we don't actually write content. Most of our clients have either in-house content producers, or we've connected them with a content writer that is a specialist in travel and transportation to write the content, but we are not a content agency. We are strictly a data-driven SEO agency.
Okay, so you work in conjunction with the in-house teams in order to make content suggestions, and then they will get the content written.
It's about 50-50 in-house teams. Yeah. And in-house teams are very common for the travel blogs that we work with and the travel information sites that we work with. Whereas, and we have a couple of clients that are not travel that we also drive outcomes for, but travel is the specialty. I will say that the other setup, though, the other situation is when there is no writer that the client has, we'll connect them with a travel specialized
travel writer.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that just through your network, or is there places that, for instance, I use textbroker.com, for finding writers sometimes. I mean, there's lots of places that probably, are there any other content creation hubs that you recommend or that you use?
So tomorrow I'm going to a travel event in Austin that has about 40 people attending it. And a lot of the people that I meet that are people who travel and love to travel, they fund that through writing content for other publishers. Spencer Howard, a good friend of mine, is a great example of this. He's worked with several travel blogs. He used to run he still runs an email service for travel point redemption deals. But Spencer is an example of someone who I met at a networking event who is a traveler who loves to write. That's typically the best way to make something happen. It's not finding someone who's a writer that can write about a subject. It's finding someone who is an expert in the subject that can write about it.
So that's pretty amazing. So in other words, there's writers out there who are funding their traveling adventures by writing content for people who are some of your clients.
Exactly. And it's very close with what I do. Like, I have not been in Austin, my home city, for more than a consecutive 7-day period this entire year.
Oh, wow.
And that's,
do you yourself do a lot of traveling?
I without regret, I do a lot of traveling. I was in the most domestic of places. I was in Galveston last weekend, but the week before I was in New York, the week before I was in Utah, the week before I was in Montana, the week before I was in Utah again, the week before I was in Tampa. There's a lot of travel.
And is it all business related, connecting with clients and networking and things like that?
If you consider skiing 21 days this year business.
Oh, yeah.
It was all business related.
Yeah, of course it was. You were having some business meeting there. You had to.
No, I would say it's about 50-50.
Oh, okay. How do you manage your remote team? How do you are there any tips or tools you can give for, because I'm assuming most of your team is remotely.
We operate on a system called Scaling Up. We actually have an implementer through an organization, a Scaling Up coach that we work with. But the people management tools in this, like, no matter if I'm present or not, my team's going to be having a daily team huddle that's 12 minutes long, right at 10:07 a.m. To get the day set off. And the management structure that we have in place is very effective, to the extent that in 2 weeks, I'm going to Greece and Italy for a week or two. Yeah, I'm planning to not turn my computer on that entire time.
Wow, good for you. Because so many entrepreneurs and business owners can't do that. They don't have systems set in place in order to do that. Your job literally, and your company literally becomes your second partner.
Yeah, it's difficult, and there are times like with this repositioning, not repositioning, but the rebranding that we're going through to reflect our repositioning, where like I'm working 12-hour days because I have to work with my team and coach and grow my team, but I also have to be talking to the people that are building our new website, talking to the people that are doing our rebrand. I have to be communicating with the graphic designers, and there's so much that's going on that still falls on me. That I am working a lot now, but it pays off. Hopefully.
Yeah, but eventually it will pay off. There was an interesting book I read called E-Myth Revisited by Malcolm Gerber.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if, that book to me was one that every entrepreneur should read, because he uses a story to tell you how to build systems and SOPs around positions and thinking about the existing positions that your company, future and existing positions your company needs and how to get them done. But this scaling up book looks really good.
There's a book called Who by Jeff Smart that was based on a book called Top Grading that is actually his dad wrote many years ago. And it talks about building scorecards for each employee with desired outcomes and numbers to track those outcomes. And if you hold people to a rigorous set of expectations that they agree to and they align with, as well as rating them on core values on a consistent basis, you will not end up in a sticky situation.
Well, that's amazing. That's such a nugget to pass on to people. It's called Who, the Method for Hiring.
Yep. I've got a list of books where that came from. Oh my goodness. I read probably 30 books a year. And that's, I wish it were more. I wish it were more.
How do you get all those done? Like, do you use Kindle in regards to reading it on an e-reader, or do you actually have I see a lot of physical books in the background.
So it actually came out of, funnily enough, a book is how I learned to do this. There was a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, where he talks about these 5 things that you do every morning. You wake up earlier than everybody else, and you do intentional silence. You have affirmations. You have journaling time. You have meditation, and you have physical activity. So it turns out that if you read 15 minutes a day, you can get through like 20 books a year in and of itself, just 15 minutes a day. That's all it takes. And I just try to do a little bit better than that. So just waking up very early and getting reading out of the way before the workday starts. Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to read a lot. I'd have 3 books on the go at once and I was constantly reading. I never watched TV. I never watched streaming Netflix, and this was going back before Netflix even existed. And I got away from it. And I personally watch training videos like LinkedIn Learning, where I'm from. With a library card, you get free access to LinkedIn Learning. So I like to watch on my lunch break. I like to watch like 15 minutes of tutorial videos and I usually watch them on 2 times speed, but that's just me. My wife laughs at me and says, I can listen to someone talking 2 times speed about marketing, but I don't listen to her. But anyway, I think it's selective reading, selective hearing. But what I'm trying to say is you've encouraged me. I really want to get back to reading.
I mean, if people have been there and done it, why not learn from them? Right.
Yeah, exactly. The best thing you can do is I learned from Anthony Robbins. If you want to learn how to do something, learn from someone who's done it already and then do what they've done twice as much to become an expert at it. So there's been some really awesome points that you've shared with us during this interview that I think our listeners and viewers will really benefit from. If people wanted to learn more about you, where would they do that? Can they follow you on LinkedIn?
They can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Brennen Bliss, Brennen spelled with an E. And then the company, I'll give a little hint out there, is called Pixel Cut Labs right now. There is a rebrand coming after 10 years in business, which stay tuned for.
Oh, right on. And are you on Twitter actively if they want to follow you there?
I am not on Twitter actively. One of my team members who's deeply into crypto is, though, and I'm trying to figure out if I should get into the Twitter game. I will let you know.
No, fine. Hey, thanks very much again for being on the show. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Happy birthday again. This was fantastic.
Hey, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.